Hey, Nicholas here with the Olympia School of Guitar, and in this video I'm going to give you some bar chord tips. Now if you've been playing for any length of time and you've gotten to bar chords, you know that they're not easy. They're pretty hard. So I want to give you some tips, but I want to lighten the mood a little bit first, okay? Because I know you're probably here. You know, if you're looking for tips on bar chords, it's probably because you're frustrated. Because you go play the bar chord and it sounds like something like that, or maybe you get lots of buzzing and things like that. So I want to lighten the mood a little bit and just tell you a little joke, just to make you smile. And it's a joke about pizza. And no, never mind. It's too cheesy. Sorry, I had to. Anyway. So here's some tips on bar chords. Number one is you don't want to use this part, the flat part right here of your finger, because it's kind of a fleshy kind of part. Sorry. Sorry, I'm still thinking about that stupid joke. Okay, you don't want to use this part of your finger because it's kind of a fleshy, kind of fatty part. You want to try to use the side of your finger. So when you put your finger down, don't put it down flat like this. Kind of angle it to the side a little bit so you can get the kind of the bony part of your finger onto the neck of the guitar. That will help you get a better sound. The second thing that I want you to pay attention to is how close you're putting your finger onto the next to the frets. Okay, so if you're trying to play a bar chord on the 3rd fret, right here, you don't want to be way back here because that's going to make it hard to get a nice clear sound. You want to be right next to those frets so that you can get those strings down easily. The further you are away from that fret, the more likely it is that you're going to have buzzing or muted strings. So make sure you're placing that finger real close. The third thing that I want you to pay attention to, and this is really, really important, is where you're placing your thumb when you play these chords. Now, a lot of people will try to place their thumb way up here, and when you're playing open chords, you can do that, and it's not that big of a deal. But when you're playing bar chords, you got to get that thumb way down here. Okay, so my thumb, I want it to be pointed straight up and down like this. And I don't want it to be up here. I want it to be probably on the lower half of the neck. And the reason for that is because when your thumb is way up here, it's really hard to get this finger to be straight and right on those strings perfectly. So what you want to do is get that thumb down, and that straightens out your finger. And then it also helps these other fingers get at a good angle to come straight down on top of these notes so that you don't get any muted notes when you play your bar chord. So thumb straight up and down behind the neck, pretty low really. You may actually need to also angle the neck of your guitar up a little bit. If you've got your neck pointed down like that, it actually does make it harder to play. You really got to crank your wrist right here. So if you need to get your guitar at a better angle, kind of like this, that's going to make it more comfortable, especially when you're getting that thumb down low. So the next two tips kind of work in conjunction with each other. And the first one is pretty counterintuitive. When I first heard this tip, I was a little bit dubious about it, but it actually is a really good tip. So what you want to do is you don't want to clamp down on these strings with your hand, because if you try to clamp down, especially when you're clamping down with that first finger, it does a couple different things. First of all, it makes it really hard to play bar chords for any length of time. If you're squeezing really hard with this hand, that hand's going to get really tired really soon, and you're going to be done. So you don't want to clamp down for that reason. The other reason is if you're really trying to clamp down, especially with that first finger, it's probably going to make it hard for these other fingers to press down as well. So you have kind of an uneven distribution of the pressure on these strings, and that's not going to give you good results either. So what do you do instead? Here we go. So instead, what you're going to do is actually pull your whole hand, you're actually going to pull your whole hand, you know, back toward you like this. You can see when I do that, my guitar actually moves. You're going to pull your whole hand and arm back and use that to get the pressure on the strings instead of trying to squeeze with your hand. So pull back, and then at the very same time, this is the next tip, at the very same time with the other arm, you know, if you hold your guitar about like this, so this part of your arm is also going to pull back on the guitar. And when I do that, the neck actually goes this way, you know, it comes out at you while I'm also pulling. So there's kind of two pressure points here. I'm pulling with this arm, I'm pushing with this arm, and that's actually creating a really strong pull against these strings to get all those notes down. And I think if you do those 5 things, you're going to have a much, much easier time playing your bar chords and getting them to sound clearly. Now, the very last thing, the very last tip I have for you is this. Be patient, okay? I remember when I was learning how to play guitar, I remember how difficult it was to play bar chords. And I actually was watching Radiohead on TV, and they're playing along and everything, and they're strumming along, and they went to the bar chord. They went to this F bar chord like this that I thought was impossible, and they just did it like it was nothing. Like, oh yeah, this is just the easiest thing in the world. And I thought, that's totally insane. How did they even do that? Like, in my mind, playing that chord clearly like this was totally impossible. But if you stick with it, you implement these tips, and just be patient with yourself and practice every single day, you'll get there, okay? Bar chords are very difficult at first, but you definitely can overcome them if you practice and put these tips to use. All right, see you next time.